Tell us briefly your vision for Tauranga City for the next 6 years.
I was born and bred here in Tauranga, and I've seen so many changes in Tauranga since that time, and some of them great, some of them not so good. My vision for Tauranga is it's a place that people can come to that thrive their businesses, to work and play, to bring up their families, and to just enjoy. We live in one of the most beautiful places in New Zealand. We've got a stunning mountain, and it's probably the jewel in the crown. We've got one of the most successful ports in New Zealand. We've got the university coming in. We need to plan for that. We need to get a clear understanding of the future for the CBD, because we've created all of these satellites outside the city, and it's not bringing anybody into the city. So the places, gosh, now we've got car parks, we've got farmers' buildings, we've got all of these road closures and things like that. And that's all part of progress. We need to get people to understand that with progress comes change. And I don't think that we've changed well enough. We haven't planned for the future.
What 2 or 3 issues do you hope to take up in council?
Transport, I think, is the biggest one. But, the planning, we need to have better planning here. Our planning has just not been great for the last few years. All this thing that's happened, especially with the influx of people coming into Tauranga. And then going, oh, goodness me, where do all these people come from? Well, the reality is that Tauranga is a great place to live. And it was always going to happen. It was just a matter of when. And the housing crisis as such just really exacerbated many of those things. I think that Mao, for example, Mount Maunganui, the track that needs to be repaired at the moment is a huge issue, and that's not going to be debated until around November this year. And that's a hugely costly exercise. And we got people saying, oh, I could fix that for $200. Well, the reality is that we don't own the mount. Māori own the mount. So we've got to go through these consultation processes, and that has to be managed really, really well. Tauranga City Council are the managers of the mount. They don't own it. So that's another huge issue.
Tell us briefly your qualifications and experience in governance type roles.
Well, I was a Tauranga City Councillor 2010-2013. During that time, I was very fortunate to have been involved in 7 different subcommittees, and I got to see the inner workings of Tauranga City Council and how it works. I believe that the first term of any councillor is a learning curve, and it's a very steep and a huge learning curve. So I have that experience that I can certainly bring forward straight away. I understand the LGA, the Local Government Act, which again takes a lot to learn. Resource Management Act is another huge one, even though they're talking about making changes. I've been talking about for the last 4 years about making changes to the Act. And I do understand those things, and those can be very stifling to a council. So I like to debate those issues and start trying to open up areas and move forward.
What are the key values that you live by and will bring to the council table?
I think values are tended to be given to us by our parents and our families and how we're brought up. I was run over by a train when I was 9 years old over at Timanga, where I lost both my legs. And I woke up one morning and my mum and dad had gone off to work, and my brother and sister had gone off to school. And I was sort of sitting there all on my own, and it was just this realisation that the world carries on and tomorrow will always come. So one of the values I like to bring, or I think I can bring forward, is the fact that no matter what happens in life, it's what you do about it that makes the difference. I've been very fortunate to have had successful signwriting companies both here in Tauranga and in Auckland. I've been to the Paralympics. I've Paralympic gold, silver and bronze medals. I climbed Kilimanjaro in Africa. I've been to the salt flats in Bonneville doing speeds of 200 miles an hour. And I think I bring forward a never give up attitude. And I think that's one of the challenges that we face here in Tauranga, is that people become very complacent. If I could encourage anybody today, would be to get out and vote. Get out and vote in this election. Have your say.
Tell us what experience you have in reading and analysing complex and large reports and financial accounts.
Being a past councillor, I'm very well aware of the amount of reading that needs to be done. I was very fortunate. I did a couple of speed reading courses while I was doing my term, and that's helped me invaluably. There is a huge amount of work. One of the things I think that you need to bring forward is the analytical mind to understand the amount of reading that you have to do, but most of that comes from the staff. Most of the reading that you get comes from council staff. I believe that you've got to do, as a councillor, your own due diligence as well, because quite often that is a one-sided piece of information. So one of the things I was very keen on is getting out there and doing my own due diligence, comparing what was given to me in the written word, and then having the ability to actually compare that with what quite possibly reality might be.
What's your experience in debating complex issues?
Well, for the last 15 years I've been a professional speaker, travelling the world, speaking at conferences, sharing my life story. And I've seen some extremely good debates, and I really, really enjoy the opportunity to share. When you debate, you actually share. You're sharing ideas, and it's finding common ground. And I always go in with an open mind. They say that there's two sides to every story. I actually believe there's 4, 5, 6 sides to every story, because we all perceive situations in different ways. So I like to believe that I could bring an open mind and the ability to share my perception of what I believe a successful outcome would be.
What sort of experience do you have in dealing with CEOs from a board member perspective?
Over many years of business, I have dealt with many CEOs in large companies throughout New Zealand. And I found that most fascinating, to be honest. CEOs tend to be a different breed of people, and they are the visionary ones, and they also have a specific way of communicating. We have a new CEO here in Tauranga this term, and I would look forward to working with the new CEO. I think that he has the ability. Look, the reality is that the CEO is the only employee of the councillors. He is the one that gives staff direction. So through the mayor, and again, we need from a mayor's point of view, and I look forward to working with a mayor that's visionary, that can bring his team together and then work closely with the CEO to make the city that it should be. Tauranga is supposedly the 5th largest city in New Zealand. Gosh, I believe at times it acts like a large town. It needs to be that vibrant, strong city, the place that we all want to live and bring up our children, because that's our future.
How do you see the relationship between council and CEO and senior staff?
I've been in many meetings with all of those groups, and what you've noticed is that they all have a different perception. You've got councillors that create policy. You've got a CEO or a councillors and a mayor that create the policy. You've then got a CEO which then gives staff direction. And then one of the things I've found is how the staff decipher the intention of the policy. And quite often that can be contradictory to what the councillors were creating at the time. So I think that they need to work a lot closer than they actually do.